Felicia Kennell cradled her newborn son, a tiny miracle amidst chaos. The room was filled with the soft beeping of medical machines, a stark contrast to the serene expression on Felicia's face as she held her baby close. The nurses moved around her, attending to other patients, but for Felicia, time seemed to stand still in that precious moment. He arrived prematurely, a fighter like his mother, his tiny fingers grasped at the air, a testament to his will to survive. The doctors had warned Felicia about the challenges ahead, but she knew in her heart that her son was a warrior, just like her. But joy warred with sorrow in Felicia's heart. The happiness of holding her newborn was tainted by a deep, unrelenting sadness. Her eyes, though filled with love for her new baby, also held a shadow of grief that she couldn't shake off. As she held her newborn, her mind raced back to her 18-year-old son, Martinez Ursery, his laughter echoing in her ears. She remembered his first steps, his first words, and the way he used to hug her tightly. Those memories were now bittersweet, a painful reminder of what she had lost. He was gone, his life stolen in a senseless act of violence. The memorial service was a blur of tears and condolences, a gathering of friends and family who couldn't comprehend the tragedy that had befallen them. Martinez's photo, surrounded by candles, was a stark reminder of the vibrant life that had been cut short. Felicia's world shattered on what should have been a day of pure joy. The news of Martinez's death came just as she was preparing to welcome her new baby into the world. The juxtaposition of life and death was almost too much to bear. The arrival of her youngest son was overshadowed by the devastating news of Martinez's death. The hospital room, which should have been filled with celebration, was instead a place of mourning. Felicia's heart ached with the weight of her loss. He was shot and killed, leaving behind a gaping hole in Felicia's life and an unbearable silence in her home. The crime scene tape, the police reports, and the endless questions about why it happened haunted her every waking moment. The weight of her grief was almost unbearable, a crushing burden on this day of bittersweet emotions. She felt torn between the need to mourn her lost son and the need to care for her newborn. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming. The hospital room, meant to be a sanctuary of new life, became a holding cell of grief. The walls seemed to close in on her, the sterile environment a stark contrast to the warmth and love she wanted to surround her baby with. Felicia struggled to reconcile the joy of her newborn's arrival with the agonizing loss of her firstborn son. She felt guilty for feeling any happiness, as if celebrating her new baby was a betrayal to Martinez's memory. The world felt blurry, a confusing kaleidoscope of emotions. She was disoriented, caught between the past and the present, between joy and sorrow. The future seemed uncertain, a path she wasn't sure how to navigate. How could she celebrate life while mourning death? The question plagued her, a constant reminder of the duality of her situation. She looked at her newborn, tears streaming down her face, searching for answers that seemed just out of reach. Felicia knew she had to find a way. She couldn't let her grief overshadow the new life she had brought into the world. She had to be strong, not just for herself, but for her newborn son who depended on her. For her newborn son, she had to be strong. She had to find the strength to move forward, to create a life filled with love and hope. Despite the pain that lingered in her heart, she would grieve for Martinez, she would fight for justice, but she would also embrace the precious life that had just entered the world. Felicia resolved to honor both her sons, to remember Martinez with love and to raise her newborn with the strength and resilience that defined her. Martinez was more than just Felicia's son. He was her confidant, her protector, her rock. From the moment he was born, Felicia felt an unexplainable connection with him, a bond that only grew stronger with time. They were inseparable, sharing not just a home, but their dreams, fears, and hopes. They shared a bond that ran deep, forged in the fires of life's challenges. Whether it was financial struggles, health issues, or personal setbacks, they faced everything together, hand in hand. Their resilience was a testament to their unbreakable bond. Martinez was wise beyond his years, often offering his mother a shoulder to lean on, a listening ear, and words of comfort that belied his young age. He had an innate ability to understand her, to sense when she needed support, and to provide it without hesitation. Felicia poured her heart and soul into raising Martinez, instilling in him the values of kindness, respect, and resilience. She taught him to be compassionate, to stand up for what is right, and to never give up, no matter how tough the situation. He blossomed under her love and guidance, growing into a young man with a bright future ahead of him. His achievements were not just his own, they were a reflection of Felicia's unwavering support and dedication. He dreamed of becoming a mechanic, his hands always tinkering, taking things apart and putting them back together. His passion for mechanics was evident in everything he did, from fixing bicycles to repairing cars. It was a dream that Felicia wholeheartedly supported. Their days were filled with laughter, shared meals, and heartfelt conversations. They found joy in the simplest of moments, whether it was cooking together, watching a movie, or just talking about their day. Martinez had a way of making Felicia laugh, even on her darkest days. His sense of humor was infectious, and his ability to find light in the darkest of times was a gift that Felicia cherished deeply. He was her sunshine on a cloudy day, her rainbow after the storm. His presence was a constant source of comfort and joy, a reminder that no matter how tough life got, they had each other. His presence filled their home with warmth and joy. Every corner of their house echoed with memories of their time together, from the kitchen where they cooked meals to the living room where they shared countless stories. Now that light was extinguished, leaving behind a void that threatened to consume her. The silence in the house was deafening, a stark contrast to the lively home it once was. The pain of losing Martinez was amplified by the special bond they shared. Every item in the house, every photograph, every piece of clothing was a painful reminder of the son she had lost. He was not just her son, he was her best friend, her confidant, a piece of her heart that was now gone forever. Felicia often found herself lost in memories, clinging to the moments they shared, trying to find solace in the love that still lingered in her heart. Martinez had his whole life ahead of him, a life brimming with possibilities. He was just beginning to explore his potential, his dreams taking shape. He talked about going to trade school, starting his own business, maybe even getting married and having a family someday. He was saving up for his first car, meticulously researching different models, comparing prices, and dreaming of the freedom and independence that came with having his own wheels. Felicia cherished those conversations, his excitement contagious, his enthusiasm a beacon of hope. He had a girlfriend, a sweet girl next door type, and they were making plans for the future. They talked about going to college together, maybe even starting a family someday. Their love was young, but it was real, full of promise and potential. All those dreams, all those aspirations were cruelly ripped away in an instant. The future that Felicia and Martinez had envisioned together was now a shattered mirror, reflecting only loss and despair. The pain was almost unbearable, a constant ache in her heart. Section 4. A cousin's betrayal. The details of Martinez's death were a cruel twist of fate, a betrayal that cut deep. His own cousin, Christopher J. Webb, was allegedly responsible for the shooting. The news hit Felicia like a ton of bricks, compounding her grief with disbelief and anger. How could someone so close to her family, someone Martinez considered a friend, take his life so carelessly? The thought of Christopher, someone she had welcomed into her home, being responsible for her son's death was unfathomable. The betrayal was a wound that ran deep, festering with each passing day. Christopher was facing charges, the legal process a slow and agonizing ordeal. Felicia was determined to see justice served, to hold Christopher accountable for his actions. She owed it to Martinez, to his memory, to fight for the truth. The legal battle ahead would be long and arduous, but Felicia was prepared. She would be Martinez's voice demanding justice for her son. She would not rest until Christopher was held accountable for his actions, until she could look her son in the eye and tell him that she had fought for him. Section 5. The weight of grief. The weight of grief pressed down on Felicia, threatening to crush her. It was as if an invisible force was squeezing her chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to do anything but feel the overwhelming sorrow. She was drowning in sorrow, the pain so intense it was physical. Each sob racked her body, each tear felt like it was tearing her apart from the inside. The loss of her son, Martinez, was a wound that seemed too deep to ever heal. Every breath was a struggle, every moment an eternity of anguish. The nights were the worst, filled with haunting memories and dreams that turned into nightmares. She would wake up gasping for air, the reality of her loss hitting her anew each time. The world around her continued to spin, but she felt frozen in time, trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape. People went about their lives, oblivious to her pain, and she felt like a ghost, invisible and alone in her suffering. The logistics of planning Martinez's funeral felt insurmountable. Each decision, each detail was a reminder of the finality of his death. The casket, the flowers, the service, it all felt like too much to bear. She was still reeling from the shock, her mind and body exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. The sleepless nights, the constant crying, the endless questions of why, it all took a toll on her, leaving her drained and weary. But she knew she had to be strong to give her son the send-off he deserved. She clung to the memories of his laughter, his smile, his love, using them as a source of strength to get through the darkest days. The financial burden added another layer of stress to an already unbearable situation. The bills piled up and the cost of the funeral seemed insurmountable. She worried about how she would manage, how she would pay for everything. Funerals were expensive and Felicia was already struggling to make ends meet. The thought of not being able to afford a proper burial for Martinez was a constant source of anxiety, adding to her already heavy load of grief. She couldn't bear the thought of not being able to give Martinez a proper burial, a final act of love and respect. It was the last thing she could do for him, and she wanted it to be perfect, a fitting tribute to the beautiful soul he was. The community rallied around her, offering support, condolences, and financial assistance. Their kindness and generosity were a lifeline, helping her navigate the overwhelming sea of grief and practical concerns. Friends, neighbors, even strangers stepped up to help, their generosity a beacon of light in her darkest hour. They brought food, offered to help with the funeral arrangements, and provided a shoulder to cry on. Their kindness provided a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there were still good people in the world. It was a small comfort, but it was enough to help her keep going, to find the strength to face each new day. Felicia found solace in writing letters to Martinez, pouring out her heart and soul onto the pages. It was a way to keep his memory alive, to feel connected to him even though he was gone. Each letter was a testament to her love and her grief. She also found comfort in small rituals, like lighting a candle in his memory or visiting his grave. These acts of remembrance helped her feel close to him, to honor his life and the impact he had on hers. As time passed, the pain didn't go away, but it became a part of her, a constant companion. She learned to live with it, to carry it with her as she moved forward. And in the midst of her sorrow, she found moments of peace, moments where she could remember Martinez with a smile instead of tears. The support of her community, the love of her friends and family, and the memories of her son gave her the strength to keep going. She knew that Martinez would want her to live, to find joy again, and she was determined to honor his memory by doing just that. The weight of grief was still heavy, but Felicia was learning to carry it. She was finding her way through the darkness, one step at a time, guided by the love she had for her son and the support of those around her.